Chapter 24. After speaking to Connor, Jovani turned and watched Sasha in all her beauty as he strode in her direction. She reminded him of how he had once loved her. But as he neared her, he felt nothing but loathing for what she had done to their union. She brought vile, destructive thoughts to his mind. He wanted to please her, and he did everything she asked of him. Murder of women. But he drew the line with children. All to satisfy their lust and wanton desires for blood and sex. Where they were once the most admired couple in the vampire kingdom who appeared to love each other, the world of vampires wasn't wrong about love. He loved her, but she didn't love him the way he needed. It was her who desired the sharing of their bed with the sole intentions to gratify her wanton desires, where she would engage in sex with men and women, and soon pushed Jovani away to a lonely place where he would leave her and forget her in search for a woman to have his child and not ask to be turned into what he had become. Now he couldn't forget her. Sasha kidnapped the woman he now loves, and Sasha's intentions are of the most heinous. To sell his Hannah and baby to be gorged on by vampires. And then to turn her into a monster too. Jovani's rage saw no bounds when he met Sasha waiting for him. His eyes glared with rage. A brilliant red, changing colors from a sea blue to blood red, because of his feeling of a sense of loss for Hannah and his child. "Is that look for me, Jovani?" Sasha said, standing looking up into Jovani's eyes. "I can never be sure about your intentions. I've seen that before in our bed when you fucked me and feasted on a body that we both enjoyed. You couldn't get enough of me then. Your eyes red and mouth dripping red with the blood of that woman you had previously made love to. I don't need you to make love to me. I want you to fuck me," she said as she trailed her long nails down his face and around the center of his back, sending chills down his spine. "Stop it. I'm not that vampire anymore." "And what are you?" Her voice strained with anger. "I've changed. I want what you couldn't give me." Sasha laughed, and her laughter bounced off the walls of the old castle. It was so loud everyone turned and began laughing with her. "Let's not waste any more time with this useless banter. You know who I want. You want that pregnant woman and the child. I will never let you have them. You're mine." She touched Jovani's arm and he glared at her, his eyes blazing red. After knowing warmth from Hannah, how could he go back to the cold of Sasha's body he remembered too well when they were together? The insides of Sasha cold like a sharp razor slicing through his skin. He reached for her hand and with considerable force pulled it from his. He scowled at her and turned to walk away. "Where are you going, Jovani? The auction is about to begin. I want you here to see what you've done because you rejected me for that human." Jovani peered at Sasha, wanting to strike her down and rid him of her forever. She marched behind him as he headed into the darkness of a hallway, furious. "If you're thinking of rescuing your Hannah and that daywalker abomination you call a baby, forget it." When Sasha couldn't get a reaction from Jovani, she continued with her rant. "A daywalker will bring a high price. Some of your contemporaries have waited forever to impregnate a human. And you, my dear husband, have done it in less than 100 years. But to no avail." Jovani whirled around and at the blink of Sasha's eyes, he stood before her, his large hand around her neck. Bringing her face closer, he said, "You dare threaten me? I have indulged you in all types of heinous acts because I felt it was my fault for turning you, but I see that you were not innocent. You wanted to be immortal. You craved decadence, wickedness, and depravity. You're among my kind now, Jovani. The vampires I know do not hold your morals, nor do they wish to spend their entire existence drinking blood from cattle. That baby of yours has given them hope, and whoever buys Hannah tonight will rule this earth." "You will not," Sasha said with a bitter tone. "What have you done with Hannah?" "She's in a room of silver, and she will be brought to this stage in a cage of silver, and only my witch can unlock that cage." So please be my guest and come and watch all your dreams destroyed, where the only one you have and will ever have is me." When Sasha felt the grip of Jovani's hand lessen, and at a blink, Jovani disappeared, and when he appeared it was in front of a silver door. "Can you hear me, Hannah?" Hannah rose from her bed and walked slowly to the door. She wasn't sure if it was a trick on Sasha's part. "Jovani! Jovani! It's me, my beloved. You can't rescue me. It will kill you." "Yes, I know. But I'll get you out of there." "No one will stop you, Jovani." "Go in," Sasha said, standing behind Jovani, rage running through her body, knowing that Jovani would rather die than spend his eternity with her. "This is what you will risk your life for? This human who will die in a few years if she lives past tonight, which I doubt. And that daywalker who will be born and given to the Vampire's Council to become an experiment, a lab rat?" Jovani turned gazing at Sasha. Cold hard rage came over him and he reached for her. "Go ahead, Jovani," she murmured, her voice harsh and bitter with contempt. "You can tear my head off with one stroke of your hand. If I can't have you, I'd rather be dead." And Sasha smiled, knowing that none of what she said was genuine. She knew Jovani wouldn't kill a female since he no longer consumed human blood. Sasha glared into Jovani's raging red eyes and saw a change. It was a curious look. His eyes wandered past her and into the dark of the corridor, and Sasha turned quickly, and standing in front of her a smiling Gabriela, and behind Gabriela, Connor. Before Sasha could change expressions or act, Gabriela raised her hand, and Sasha opened her mouth to say stop. But with a quick motion, Gabriela brought her hand down to Sasha's chest. "Take that, you evil bitch." And Gabriela plunged a wooden stake deep into the chest of Sasha, and with a hammer she pounded the mallet over the stake, as Sasha's mouth opened wide and her eyes stared ahead. Sasha collapsed to the floor with her eyes open. Sasha's mouth twisted, her face distorted. She began to change as her eyes remained wide in surprise, as if she wanted to say something, but her words died with her, and all that was left was a dry, shrunken white corpse lying on an old oriental rug on an old wooden floor as old as Sasha. She lay with a piece of new wood impaled in her cold, dead heart. Breathing loud, Gabriela shouted, "I got your witch too. Now what do you have to say about that, you crazy bitch?" And as an afterthought, Gabriela opened her vial of holy water and poured it over the remains of Sasha. Gabriela screamed as Connor pulled her up to a standing position from crouching over Sasha. Connor brought Gabriela into his arms. She shook from relief after dropping the mallet beside the remains of Sasha, and when he placed his hands on her dark hair, brushing it with his hand to calm her, she looked up and smiled warmly at him. Jovani stared at Sasha, knowing that he would have killed her if Gabriela hadn't. But what would that have done to him and Hannah, knowing that he killed a woman he once loved? For Hannah, he would kill anyone who threatened her. Looking down on Sasha's gray, dried, lifeless body, he remembered her like she was before this. It was the sound of Connor's voice that brought him back to the now. "We have the key." Connor pulled it from his pocket as Jovani looked puzzled. He didn't say a word. His forehead furrowed and then smoothed, and he stepped back and breathed relief. For some reason his eyes were drawn to Sasha once more. Looking at her, and all that remained of a once beautiful woman was piled under a beautiful gown crumpled on the floor. It was as if Sasha had never existed, but she had. She remained in his lost memory. A distant recollection that time causes you to forget, and only when you smell a scent or see a picture or hear a song you remember. He didn't hear when Connor inserted a key and opened the room which imprisoned Hannah, encased in silver as a bait for him. He didn't hear when she walked out into the corridor and stood looking at him, as he stood looking down at Sasha. Jovani's eyes strayed from the dust on the floor, which had been Sasha, and scanned the living figure in front of him. He realized there stood his future and Hannah. Nothing could compare to her, and nothing ever will in Jovani's mind. She ran to him, and he cloaked her in his arms. "Are you okay? Is the baby okay?" he questioned, looking at Hannah and passing his hands over her baby bump. Then smiling. Hannah's expression altered. Her nose twitched. "I smell smoke," she said. Her forehead furrowed. Her breath shallow with quick gasps. Gabriela looked to Hannah with a mischievous smile. "I set that fire." The nerves of her having sex at a time like this. Another wide smile crossed Gabriela's mouth. "We have to leave here now, and you get home before the sun rises, Jovani," Connor said, glancing at Jovani. Connor knew the question by looking into Jovani's eyes. "We'll bring Hannah to safety and to you. Trust me. Just leave now. Go." "I know a way out of here," Gabriela said as she pulled at Hannah's hand. Jovani let her hand fall. He kissed her, taking Hannah back to the first time they lay together. It was a passionate kiss. It was an arousing kiss, and it was a kiss to last her lifetime. Her warm, sweet lips stirred every part of his manhood, and he smiled at her, not wanting to leave. "Leave me now, my love," Jovani said, wanting to stay with her, knowing that if she didn't leave, he would never go. "Connor will take care of you." And Jovani disappeared. He held on to Hannah for as long as he could, and then he dissolved into the air like metal mixing into a molten fire. Hannah's head lay to the side where Jovani's body once stood. Connor grabbed Gabriela's hand, and Hannah followed behind them as the smoke enveloped the castle. They made it out of the door into the courtyard, and to the street with Jovani's limo waiting on the side, parked against the curb. The bulky bodyguard sat staring ahead in the front seat with Connor's brother. With the sun rising, they rushed into the limo. Sitting for a few minutes watching the blaze of fire envelope the castle, jumping from floor to floor, Connor said, "That old varnished wood burns quickly," Connor said, watching impassively at Gabriela's handiwork. Turning away to look at Gabriela, "How did Tycia die, Gabriela?" Hannah questioned. "Not well," Gabriela said with a hidden smile. And when the windows burst, making sounds like a landslide, the screaming began, and the blaring noise of the fire trucks covered the sounds of wailing and screeching vampires and witches. Connor waved front the back seat of the SUV, signaling for his brother to drive on. When they reached Jovani's apartment building, Connor and his brother handed Hannah and Gabriela their coats, not because they were naked under their gowns, but because it was cold. They drove into the parking garage after dropping off the bodyguard, and took the private elevator up to the penthouse apartment of Jovani Nightingale, and now it belonged to Hannah as well. The three, Connor, Hannah, and Gabriela, stepped inside, and Gabriela looked at the huge space and the enormous room with high ceilings. The walls were plastered with silk cloth, and the furniture a mixture of old-world charm and Western luxury. Chandeliers, ancient and modern, dotted the high ceiling, leading from the entrance to bedrooms located at the far back. "I didn't expect to see all this. Contemporary art. Miro and Picasso. Modern furniture? What did you expect, Gabby?" Connor asked, holding her hand. Hannah glanced at Connor with a smile. Gabriela had stolen his heart, and he had stolen hers as well. "A vampire's home should be filled with a coffin, black walls, and red carpet," she said, wandering around, her hands gliding over the silk fabric of chairs. "My mother has a chair like this. She said it was from the Palace of Versailles. Hers is a fake." She twisted her mouth. "This is real." Looking to Connor, Hannah said, "Where's Jovani?" "I'm tired." Connor shared a look with Gabriela. "He's in his bedroom in the back area." And he pointed to the long corridor, and Hannah ambled in that direction. "Where do you sleep, Connor?" Gabriela questioned. He glanced at her, his eyes wide and bright. "On the second floor beneath here. I have my own quarters. My own entrance, lobby, and elevator. I'm sleeping with you tonight, and then maybe you can come sleep with me sometimes." She took his hand, and a tired Connor and an energetic Gabriela watched Hannah as she closed the door to Jovani's room. Gazing at Jovani lying in a dark room, on a large bed covered with black silk sheets, Hannah dropped her gown and climbed in the bed and lay down on top of him. His eyes opened when he felt his temperature rise, and he released a loud breath of pleasure. She lay her body on his, and his arms wrapped around her. He pulled her to him and kissed her softly and slowly. "Where have you been all my life?" "Waiting for you. It took a century for you to find me now. How long will it take for you to make love to me?" His manhood rose, and she reached for it and slid it between her legs. Rising from his body, her hand resting on his chest, she straddled him, placing his hard penis inside of her. His eyes closed and his mouth parted. Hannah leaned forward as her lips fell on his mouth, as her breath touched his wide chest filled with muscles. Her desire for him quickened, and she pushed her hips into his. He wouldn't move for fear of hurting her. The movement was all hers as she pleasured herself on his body. Her need appeared to be greater than his. Jovani said, "Tomorrow we'll sort this out, but now we need some rest, and especially you. We can't have anything happening to our baby." "Nothing will happen to the baby. I'm not that fragile. I escaped from a witch and ran from wolves. And here I lay on the chest of a vampire pregnant with his baby." He stroked her hair, layering it to the side as he nipped her neck and trailed his large cool hands down her buttocks in a soothing caress, bringing chills to her and making her more excited. "I need to know that you want me as much as I want you," Hannah admitted. "I don't want to be a vessel for your lust. How could you doubt my love? I will never leave you. Never love another." He placed his hands on her face and leaned to kiss her, and she felt his throbbing manhood inside of her. She never felt so loved, so wanted, so beautiful. Hannah looked up at Jovani and placed her head on his chest, and fell asleep with him inside of her. The sleep peaceful now. No longer would she be awakened by horrible dreams of Sasha killing her, or her baby. Jovani slept with his love wrapped in his arms. No longer would he be plagued by the thoughts of Sasha. He would take Hannah away from all their bad dreams, and he would take himself away from the past. A past filled with coldness, death, and rage, into the future of a new generation of vampire. His offspring to be born into the light and walk during the day. Now his future will be filled with warmth and the beating of a heart that is for him and no other. It had been his desire to find love and to have a child, and now that wish will be fulfilled by a beautiful human who thinks the sun rises and sets with him, Jovani Nightingale. The last night. The end. Author's note: thank you for reading my books. If you haven't read The Soul of a Vampire books 1, 2, and 3, by Rachel E. Rice, they're on sale for a low price. The books should be read in order. Enjoy and sign up to my newsletter for coming attractions, cover reveals, and free giveaways. You can always contact me at rachelaries04@gmail.com, and I promise you, I will answer your emails. Please leave a review if you enjoyed the books, and try the box set for a low price. Passion is a great love story. Check below for more books by Rachel E. Rice. Soul of a Vampire.